Welcome back to What Are We Talking About? I'm Ben Lewis. Every day we are bombarded with headlines, outrage, talking points designed to tell us what to think. But here we like to take a step back, ask questions, challenge the narrative, and examine the biggest stories in politics, culture, sports, and faith through a Christian conservative worldview. If you're tired of media spin and ready for honest conversation grounded in truth, common sense, and biblical principles, you're in the right place. This is What Are We Talking About? Let's get into it. My guest today is Marc Cox, one of Missouri's most recognized conservative voices, as the host of the Marc Cox Morning Show on 97.1 FM, Talk in St. Louis. Marc, let's get right into it. With the August 4th vote coming up, Missourians are being asked to vote yes or no on Amendments 4 and 5. As we've covered on here already, Amendment 4 would move the passing criteria for an IP to 8 of 8 district, representing Missouri as a whole instead of just recognizing the two larger metro areas. And Amendment 5 would be removing the state income tax. As I'm seeing a pretty even split on where people stand on both, but the opposition on Amendment 4 seems to be coming from more like the two metro areas, which why wouldn't they want to keep control, obviously? But Amendment 5 opposition seems to be coming from certain groups, people in real estate, education, retirees, and anyone that's like anyone against a perceived right-leaning policy. One guy literally told me if I was coming for his money, I better bring a gun. And I'm like, bro, I'm not the guy showing up for your money. But I came across a graphic you shared referencing Ballotpedia's campaign finance reports, and I see some very interesting names atop this list. Missouri Association of Realtors has contributed $1.9 million, and the National Education Association has contributed $1.25 million, opposing Amendment 5. So my first one would be, when you look at the campaign finance reports, what stands out to you about the organization spending money against Amendment 5?
It's where you need to start, Ben. Follow the money. I call myself a recovering journalist. I was a television reporter for many years. And whenever you covered a story, you always wanted to look at who was behind funding it. You see on this list of the top donors opposing Amendment 5, many of the names transfer to the list of the top donors opposing Amendment 4. The Missouri NEA, $1.9 million. The Missouri Association of Realtors, $1.9 million. The NEA, $1.25 million. The Missouri NEA, $250,000. Just right off the bat there, you've got, almost $4 million being spent by groups, a couple of them out-of-state national groups as well, that have chipped in on this, that are members of the progressive left. The Realtors Association is opposed to both Amendment 5 and Amendment 4. I'll get into Amendment 4, their reasoning a little later. They're against Amendment 5 because they're selling the lie to people that this would cause a tax on real estate transactions. They're trying to scare people that if you sell your home, there's going to be an extra tax because of what they're trying to replace the income tax with. Today, on my program in St. Louis, we had Governor Kehoe on. Governor Mike Kehoe told me that is not true. He goes, we're hearing these lies all over the place. There's been no discussion of that. There's been no suggestion of that. In fact, I've told the legislature that if they sent anything to my desk that raises fees on doctor's visits or real estate transactions, I'm going to cancel it. I would veto it, in other words. So we have the governor on record saying none of that's going to happen. And yet the ads you'll hear between now and when Election Day is over tomorrow or on Tuesday, it's going to be, they're just drowning the airwaves in these lies, trying to scare people. This is a revenue neutral bill. It's an amendment that's revenue neutral. The sales tax, if that's what they increase, only goes up as the income tax decreases, and they're not allowed to bring in any more revenue than they're bringing in right now. So people claiming that this is a huge tax increase are just misinformed. But it's hard to battle millions and millions of dollars worth of advertising on the local airwaves.
Absolutely. And I see these scare tactics, and I see them for what they are. It's to scare you into voting no. When I have discussions with people on here, the main pushback I get, because I spoke to, for instance, Representative Gregg, right, out of the 140th here, like Ozark, Missouri area. And we talked about like the potential for what that tax increase would be. He said, nothing's in stone, but like what they're talking about is like 6.25 as a top end. I attended virtually the meeting that Ben Keithley held down here. He was talking more like in the 5.5 range, right? And so I did the math to show people what these numbers actually look like. And the pushback I get from people is, well, if it's not in the language and it's not in the language, and it could be 20%. And it's almost like people don't understand that argument goes both ways for the positive and the negative. If the positive is not in the language, then it's not in the language, but also the negative. But the scare campaigns just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Do you think that most Missouri voters even know who's funding the opposition, or are they only hearing the campaign slogans?
I think they don't understand it and they're afraid. And here's the argument I've made is that as a conservative, and I run a conservative talk show. I don't hide from that.
Right.
My opinion comes from the fact that I am a conservative. As a conservative, anytime I have an opportunity to pay less income tax, because I am a producer in this state, I'm not a taker. I produce income for my employer pays me. If I have a chance to reduce that amount as an employee and a conservative, I'm going to do that. I don't know why every conservative wouldn't want to do that. And I understand the argument from people who say, I'm retired. I paid income tax for years, and now I pay very little income tax because all they do is tax my pension a little bit, or I'm not getting taxed now that I'm on Social Security, and I don't want to pay more. I understand that. My argument to those people is, then for God's sake, if you're a conservative, do it for your kids. Do it for your grandkids. You've got to look at the big picture of what this means for the state of Missouri. We are already behind the 8 ball. There are 6 other states that have already eliminated the income tax. There are 7 or 8 others that are in the process. They've already started this process, and they're starting to reduce their income tax to zero. At some point, we will be surrounded by states that have zero income tax. It's going to be really hard to attract businesses and people to the state of Missouri if we don't do this. We've got to be forward thinking as conservatives and see what this is going to mean for the state. I understand change is scary. I get that. I really do. But this is revenue neutral. Your sales tax is not going to go up 20%. And here's another argument, if you'll give me a chance here, Ben. Mm-hmm. Do the math. So a family of 4 making $100,000 a year in income, mom and dad both work, make $50,000 a year. The state sales tax, or the state income tax, is 4.7%. They're going to have about $5,000 extra in their pocket at the end of the year that they didn't have when they had an income tax. If sales taxes go up from 4.2%, I think where they are now, to 6.2%, let's say they go up 2%. My research and my math shows that's going to cost the average family about $1,600 a year more than they're currently paying. Family of 4. Huh. As I do the math, they're still $3,500 or $600 better than they were before. For working families, it makes sense. For your kids and your grandkids, it makes sense moving forward. Then you keep the money in your pocket and you decide how you're going to spend it.
Absolutely. I think that this is a problem of math. Okay. I think that it's easier to be scared than actually figure out the math on it. Right. And
yeah, I would agree with that.
I put out some information similar to what you said, where I said, if you take somebody making $60,000 a year, right now they're going to end up paying $1,460 in state income tax, right? And to pay that same $1,460 in tax, given a 6.25% sales tax, right, they would have to spend $23,360 per year, or $1,950 a month, on the items that were increased to even reach that amount. And then what people aren't understanding is you're the one dictating how that money gets spent. You're the one dictating how the state allocates that money at this point, instead of it just being a flat tax that comes off the top. I want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about Cowboy Revolution apparel. Now, obviously, you've seen my cowboy hat on the cover of this podcast. And let's be real, when you hear cowboy, your mind jumps to the hat. The silhouette, the statement, but you're not always out roping cattle, right? You're navigating the concrete jungle, or maybe just a chill Sunday morning headed to church. That's the gap Cowboy Revolution apparel feels. They're taking that iconic Western spirit and putting it into the clothes you actually live in. Starting with the gear that keeps your head warm and looks sharp, hats and hoodies. Their hoodies aren't just soft, they're substance. They're heavyweight fleece designed with a rugged durability that's rare these days. Think reinforced stitching, metal tip drawstrings that fits you and lets you move. They're built to be your best friend when the temperature drops, whether you're fixing a fence or just hitting the coffee shop. These are the hoodies that get better, not bagged out with every wash. And the hats, we're talking about more than just your standard cap. They've got structured trucker hats with classic Western patches that pay respect to the ranching life. They've got wool caps for that vintage frontier look, and for those who want the full silhouette without the fuss, they offer premium, crushable felt hats that are easy to pack, but demand respect when you wear them. Every stitch, every buckle, every curve is deliberate. You don't have to wear a full Western rig to carry the grit of the West. Just throw on a Cowboy Revolution hoodie or a CR hat and you're good to go. It's about quiet confidence and uncompromising quality from a veteran-owned company. Some conservatives have pointed out that several organizations opposing Amendment 5 were also involved in supporting Missouri's abortion amendment 2 years ago. Do you think that's a coincidence, or does it reflect a consistent political alliance of some sort?
For Amendment 5 specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say it's an alliance more than anything. I mean, I'm not surprised that, one of my favorite quotes is from Ron Swanson. And he says, and I play it on my show all the time, always remember the government is like a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore, chapped nipples. And I play that all the time to drive home the point that government and the bureaucrats that run government, and that would be many people on the progressive left of the establishment in this country, never, ever, ever want to see government lose any control or get any smaller. And I'm not saying that Amendment 5 would necessarily make government smaller, but it does make government lose control of your money that is currently taken out of your paycheck before it ever arrives in your pocket. And then you get to keep the money and you get to decide how you spend it. Now, some of those tax dollars, some of the dollars you're spending will still go back to the government as tax, but you're choosing. And a lot of people on the left in this country can't stand that idea. They want a progressive income tax that grows and grows and takes more and more. So I'm not surprised at all that some of these same groups that are the progressive left in this country would also be opposed to something that gives the taxpayer more control over their money.
Okay, so let me ask this. So whenever we're talking about the top donors opposing, obviously real estate, tops that list. But the second being the National Education Association, and then third being Missouri National Education. Why do organizations like those see Amendment 5 as something worth spending so heavily to defeat? And could that money, we're always talking about education. Could that money be spent better elsewhere?
Well, in terms of how that money could be for the NEA, probably they could probably spend the money more effectively somewhere else. But again, they're an organization. They're a teachers union is effectively what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they do not want to see potential revenue stripped away from their union members. And that's the thing about it. They're selling the lie that this is going to somehow negatively impact schools. It's written into Amendment 5 that it does not affect revenue in school districts. It doesn't touch it. Now, of course, they're afraid that if overall taxes go down, it might impact the government's ability to fund local schools. I'm sure that may be part of it. But again, they're not looking out for your best interests. They're looking out for the best interests of their union
teachers, even though there's a guarantee written in there that it's not going to touch the schools. So I am not surprised to see them dabbling in it. They are part of the left-wing establishment. So it's, you know, it's the same playbook every time. And then the NEA will be over here. They also, remember, they opposed Adam Schnelting's bill that got signed by the governor that would move school board elections in St. Charles County here to November. And that first round will go in November of 28. And that's when the NEA is going to really be mad, because they're going to realize they can no longer buy their way onto these school boards when there's actually 40 or 50% voter turnout in a red county. Conservative candidates are going to get elected.
So there's always a play, is what I'm hearing.
Always a play. Absolutely.
And that's what, whenever I talk to people, I try to help them understand that, like, none of this is ever not an op, right? Like, there's always something being run, and you just have to pay attention to see what that is. Another situation we're dealing with right now, let's pivot to Amendment 4. Okay, so Amendment 4 is being opposed by these same organizations. Why would, a graphic I see a lot is, and I'm sure you've seen this one, because now anybody with, you know, a begin user license on ChatGPT can create a graphic for Facebook and try to make it look legitimate. But the one that I'm seeing all the time, and if you haven't seen this, then you just haven't been on social media today, is a picture, and it's a graphic of a red state and then a blue dot in St. Louis. And it says, a vote for yes for Amendment 4 would be like everybody in the red wants ice cream, but the blue dot doesn't want ice cream, so nobody gets ice cream. And my position on that is you can use that very same graphic for the antithesis. So why are people so quick to understand the no ice cream bit and not understand that the way it sits now, the more metro urban blue areas have actual more control over the state than the rural areas?
Because I don't know the answer to your question. I think it's it's an easy sell because of the picture. But
yeah,
here's the truth of the matter, Ben. Conservatives in the state of Missouri have not passed a major conservative issue through initiative petition reform since 1980. My guess is that's before Ben was alive.
Actually,
correct?
I was born January 11th, 1980. So
okay, so you were just born.
Old. Yes,
you were 11 days old when that happened. I was not of voting age just yet. I got to vote for Ronald Reagan in his second election. Awesome. But the point is, that was the Hancock Amendment. Mm-hmm. The Hancock Amendment's what everybody's talking about with Amendment 5 now. That's the last major piece of conservative legislation passed via initiative petition. That's what all these people need to understand. They're advocating for something that we don't even use. It's not a tool in the toolbox of conservatives in the state of Missouri. And I worked here as a reporter starting in 1993 at Channel 4 News in St. Louis. Democrats still had a firm control over the legislature until the late 90s, right? Mid to late 90s. So it's not like Republicans wouldn't have maybe wanted to try IP reform. The point of it is that they've never been able to use it effectively, and the liberals have, because they control the big blue blotches in Missouri, in Kansas City, in St. Louis, in Springfield, to some extent in Columbia. They control most of the population of the state lives in those blue areas, and that it's maddening. But all they have to do is buy their way onto the ballot and whip up the blue-haired nose ring mafia, and they all run out and vote for it. And all the teachers' unions run out and vote for it. And the conservatives sit on their hands and have poor voter turnout, and they get these things ensconced in our Constitution. Amendment 4 is a way to stop that from happening. And, I've heard the complaint, well, why are the requirements different for legislator-led initiatives as opposed to citizen-led initiatives? Well, I'll tell you one thing. A voter-led initiative has never been through a hearing. It's never been through a committee hearing. It's never been through pre-votes. It's never been through amendments. All of those things have to happen in the legislature by the people you and I voted for and sent down there to represent us before it ever makes it to the governor's desk to be put on the ballot as an amendment. Citizens initiatives don't have they don't go through any of that. If they can get enough signatures, they can put it on the ballot. That's why our Constitution is 400 pages long. Like the marijuana law itself is 30 or 40 pages of legislation. It's ridiculous. And Amendment 4 is a way to stop that, because what it says is, hey, all these folks in rural areas, it's like the Electoral College. This is to make sure that everybody has a voice, and it's not just raw democracy and whoever can turn out the most voters on any given day determine whether or not we add more ridiculous language to the Missouri Constitution. It should have to reach some sort of threshold, and 50% plus one in each of the congressional districts is not a lot. That's still a bare minimum. It's just saying, hey, the people in Springfield area are buying into it. In CD7, the people in CD2 are buying into it. The people in CD1 are buying into it at least a little bit. And that's all we're asking for.
Yeah. No, one of the biggest talking points I hear from supporters is this would be keeping out-of-state money from rewriting Missouri's Constitution. How significant in your opinion, has outside influence become in recent ballot campaigns?
Oh, it's incredible. And it's been a source of frustration for me as a conservative, because I don't see conservatives, I don't see the opposition when it's a liberal issue like Amendment 3 2 years ago. I didn't see, I know that we have rich Republicans and conservatives in the state of Missouri. I want to know why they weren't pouring millions of dollars into it. And I think to some extent, by the end of that campaign, they had put several $million into the yes campaign or into the no on 3 campaign. But they were still swamped, Ben. They were probably outspent 10-1. And it wasn't by Missouri. It wasn't by Missouri supporters. It was by dark money PACs from Virginia and California, donating money to Missouri to turn us into the most abortion-friendly state in the world. Not just the United States, in the world.
Yeah.
And why are we allowing that? As Missourians, why are we allowing that? Amendment 4 would also ban foreign money. No more foreign money could be spent on any election in the state of Missouri.
And I think that really sometimes people don't get these outside influences. The people with, for instance, you go to Walmart, the grocery store, something like that, and the people with the clipboards out there wanting you to sign up on, whatever they're trying to get as an initiative petition or whatever. They don't understand where these people come from or where these organizations come from. I dealt with one of these organizations before, and like they had reached out to inquire about like notary services, right? And so I'm asking that, and this was like early 2000s. This wasn't an IP, this was something else, but it was about renewable energy, right? They wanted to get on the ballot for like renewable energy, and like energy companies have to make movements towards like wind turbines and renewable energy over the next, 10 to 20 years plus. And I said, well, where is this originating from? Like, do you guys live in Missouri? And they like laughed at me, and they said, no, we're out of Oregon. We're just trying to make sure every state has renewable energy initiatives on, their legislature. And I'm like, so you have no interest in Missouri? Like this isn't your home, and this is where these people are coming from.
You're right, and I've confronted them recently. They've got a petition that we're still waiting to see if it gets approved by the Secretary of State, but it would be on the November ballot, and it would basically prevent us from ever changing initiative petition reform. If they get this on the ballot and it was to pass in November and we don't pass Amendment 4, that would prevent us from ever changing initiative petition in the state of Missouri. But you know what they told me when they were gathering signatures for it? They told me it was an initiative petition about clean ballot language, that it was an initiative petition that would guarantee clear language on the ballot, which seems like perfectly reasonable. But I asked the one lady, where's the text so I can read it myself?
Mm-hmm.
Of the three people there, only one could produce anything with any wording on it. And you very quickly realized it was just an attempt to prevent anybody from ever making a change to initiative petition reform. The legislature couldn't affect it. Nobody could ever affect it again if this passes. So they lie. Many of them, many times they're paid. Many times they're from out of state. And I'm not sure how you defeat that moving forward. I mean, as long as they can get tens of millions of dollars from dark money groups in somewhere in Virginia that don't even have a traceable name, and you don't know who's contributing to it, it's a never-ending pipeline of money from the progressive left, who, as they told us back during Barack Obama's first term, they want to transform America. They want to fundamentally change America. It's the same people behind the DSA. I'm just telling you. These are the same people that are now have come out of the hiding, and they're finally admitting who they are. They want to change America. And to some extent, at least in Missouri, they're winning. That's why we need to pass Amendment 4.
And this speaks to what I've been shouting from the mountaintops is whenever I see changes that have happened across demographics, and when you just turn on the news and you check out Minnesota, you check out Michigan, things like that. If Amendment 4 is not passed, and then what you say comes down the pipe, and that is approved, and there's no change you can ever make, then you could very reasonably imagine a world where in 10, 15 plus years, the demographic in the major metro areas changes to a point that is so different than the rest of rural Missouri that without Amendment 4, things could get passed that are such a antithesis of life in rural Missouri as it is right now.
It's a great point. I absolutely, we may already be at that breaking point without changing it, because if this thing passes in November, it's over. If it doesn't pass in November, if Amendment 4 fails, then we may talk the legislature into taking one more shot at IP reform. But I'm telling you, they're on to us now, and they're trying desperately to hamstring us, which is why they're willing to lie about what Amendment 4 does. All Amendment 4 does is say, just like amending them, it's not even as difficult as amending the United States Constitution. It's not even that difficult. All we're saying is you have to get some buy-in from people in every area of Missouri if you're going to alter the Missouri Constitution. Right now, the progressives in this country and the progressives in the state of Missouri are simply using it as a tool, a very effective tool, to do an end run around a supermajority Republican legislature where they are a tiny minority and can't get anything done.
And would you agree? This is something I've said. If I'm saying this and you think that I'm incorrect on this, fix it for me right now, and I'll change the way I say it if you think I'm wrong. But whenever I see the ice cream meme, which is what I call it, okay, the ice cream graphic where if St. Louis doesn't want ice cream, nobody gets ice cream. Literally right now, the way our state is St. Louis and Kansas City can want something and get it, or not want something and nobody gets it, as we are right now. Would you agree with that?
I would. And the main reason they can want something and get it, or not want something and get it, is because rural Missouri and a lot of Republicans simply don't get out and vote.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. If more gun owners got out and voted, if more Christians got out and voted, I've argued here, Ben, that every pastor, I had a pastor, we have a church here called the Grace Church in St. Louis. We had the pastor on the other day,
mm-hmm.
and he and I were talking about the fact that he's a huge proponent of these churches becoming more active on issues like this, maybe not endorsing candidates, because that's where it gets a little squirrely if
right.
you're an exempt organization. But on an initiative petition, that's completely different. And if these churches, if all churches aren't in the pulpit leading up to these elections, informing people on how this is going to impact their lives, they didn't do it on Amendment 3 the first time around. They better do it on Amendment 3 this time around, or we're going to be stuck with the most liberal abortion laws in the world potentially forever. So, yeah, I agree with you. They've got it both ways right now.
Yeah, and 100% as far as the church goes. My family and I have an online evangelical ministry we do as well. And I get pushed back sometimes because they're like, you shouldn't mix, the Bible and politics. But I'm telling you, Christians have to get out and vote. Christians have to pay attention and know what's going on and get out there and have their voices heard, because the opposition is doing that all the time already, right? So if I'm not telling you how this relates biblically, okay?
Right.
Like abortion, how every child is created in the image of God. The opposition is out here yelling clump of cells from the rooftops, right? So like, you have to get involved in this.
Ben, if we don't have a center where we determine what's moral and what's not moral, for most people, that's their faith. I may be wrong about that, but I think that's where I find my center on a lot of these issues, right?
Absolutely.
Which makes me question why somebody would say, well, you shouldn't mix up politics and the pulpit. Well, this directly relates to something that you as a Christian, for example, the Bible says abortion is wrong. As a Christian, you should understand how this issue is going to affect abortion in the state of Missouri. I don't see why anybody would have a problem with that at all. Do you know, to me, it's no different than why I don't understand exactly why, and I may get you in trouble for saying this, that at least a majority of Jewish voters in America support the Democrat Party. I don't understand that. Look what's happened in Gaza. Look who's supporting radical Muslims on college campuses, harassing Jewish students as they try to walk to class. Only one party is supporting those people. So if they're not preaching it from the pulpit, where else are people getting their news? I have no problem with that at all, and I don't know why more churches and religions don't do it.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And I've thought, and I've had many. Mark, thank you very much.
You bet. And just to mention, I do have a voter guide I do before every election that's up on our webpage there at 971talk.com.
Awesome. Hey, we'll get all these links in the show notes here as well. So, Mark, we're going to do this again, man. Appreciate talking to you.
Great. Yeah, enjoyed it, Ben. Thank you.
Country where being a Christian and being a Democrat did align somewhat, but now's just not that time. It's just not that time anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that to a large extent. I mean, I know good people who are Christians and who vote a Democrat ticket, and I've had conversations with them and I haven't had a lot of luck convincing them that they're voting down the wrong path. I mean, you're not voting in your own best interest if you're doing that, in my opinion. But people are weird. They've got their beliefs, and I do my best on the radio 5 days a week to change them over to my point of view. But that's a tough one.
Hey, we appreciate it, Mark. Mark, man, thanks for coming on to help our listeners better understand what exactly is going on. Too many people, I think, rely on clever social media posts and commercials positioned to talk to people like they're three instead of actually digging in and understanding the actual play that's being run. So I appreciate you coming on with some real conversation on that. Hey, guys, make sure to catch the Marc Cox Morning Show every weekday on 97.1 FM out of St. Louis, or you can catch up via podcast through Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Mark, thank you very much.
You bet. And just to mention, I do have a voter guide I do before every election that's up on our webpage there at 971talk.com.
Awesome. Hey, we'll get all these links in the show notes here as well. So, Mark, we're going to do this again, man. Appreciate talking to you.
Great. Yeah, enjoyed it, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out today. If this episode made you think or challenged your perspective or gave you something worth talking about, I'd really appreciate it if you'd help grow the show. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, leave a rating or a review, and share this episode with your friends and family. That's honestly the biggest way you can help us get these conversations in front of more people. If you've got thoughts on today's topic or ideas for future episodes, drop them in the comments. I do read them. And there's a very good chance they'll end up on a future show. I'm Ben Lewis, and this has been What Are We Talking About? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.